Shoot, 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 shoot.
Hey guys, welcome. It's your host, Ren City, host of Sports and Shorts of Sorts, doing our NFL recaps that we've been doing weekly. Been loving it. This is NFL Week 11 recap. Big time matchups that led some entertaining football. But before we jump to everything that went down, I'm going to name a few teams you're not going to hear from. The Arizona Cardinals, Carolina Panthers, New York Giants, Tampa Bay Bucks. They were all on a bye week. Although there is some juicy news regarding the Giants coming up in my Week 12 predictions. But that's the future. Let's talk the now. Let's talk about Week 11 and how it started. We had a big NFC East matchup to kick off Week 11 of the NFL season. 7-3 Washington Commanders taking on the 7-2 Eagles. The winner of the matchup would lead the division. Eagles' first drive, very impressive, moving down the field, setting up a field goal attempt for Jake Elliott, but he missed it, ending Philly's opening drive with no points. The Commanders, they took advantage of that missed field goal, marching down the field, impressive running game. Brian Robinson Jr. was back in the lineup. Fellow running back Austin Eckler making big plays out of the backfield as well. Drive was capped off with Robinson Jr. punching in a 1-yard touchdown, rugby style, give the Commanders a 7-0 lead. Eagles looked to respond, moving the ball in the field goal range with Jake Elliott attempt a 51-yarder. But this one just went like the first. 2 decent drives, no points as the Philly trailed 7-0. Commanders look to take advantage of that as well near midfield. A short third down throw went to Eckler. He dropped the ball. Easy first down, thrown away, and they'd kick it away. The Eagles tried to get anything, and they'd go on a long drive to end the half, picking up first down, setting up another field goal attempt. This one was a shorter one, just 21 yards, and Elliott hit that, cutting in the Washington 7-3 lead going into halftime. Kicker got a sarcastic cheer from the Philly fan base on his made kick. Washington, they opened the second half with the ball, going on a nice drive, getting a Zane Gonzalez field goal, and they increased that lead to 10-3. Philadelphia, they answered by moving the ball again. They were very effective moving the ball. Huge pass play to Saquon out of the backfield. He picked up most of the yards on the drive. But again, they'd settle for a field goal attempt, and Elliott hit this one as well. 31 yards, cutting the lead to 10-6 with 5.5 to go in the third. Commanders were hoping to answer back, but the Eagles' defense stifled Jaden Daniels in the offense, getting the ball right back to Jalen Hurts. Don't want to sound like a broken record here, but the Eagles would move the ball down the field again, setting up a 1-yard tush push, and thus Jalen Hurts punched it in, getting the Eagles their first lead of the game. But the usual reliable Jake Elliott was having a rough day at the office, missing the extra point, his third missed kick of the game. Philadelphia only led 12-10. Washington would have a chance to answer with Jaden Daniels moving the ball, getting in the Philadelphia territory looking for points. And after the Philadelphia defense made a big third down stop, Washington head coach Dan Quinn had a big decision to make. Kick the field goal and take the 1-point lead or go for it on 4th and 2. He went full Nick Sirianni and went for it. Bobbled snap wasn't a great start. Daniels rolled out, tried to pick it up on his own, but wasn't even close. A massive turnover on downs in a 2-point game. Eagles taking over from Washington. They got no points on the drive. Eagles immediately took advantage of the turnover. Jalen Hurts finding Dallas Goedert deep down the field. That play put Philly in the Washington territory, but Goedert had the ball punched out from behind while picking up more yards. Luckily for the Eagles, though, they got the ball back, which was huge because a few plays later, Saquon Barkley added to his MVP caliber season, running in a touchdown from 23 yards out, increasing the lead to 19-10 after Elliott actually hit an extra point. Washington still hungry for points, down 9 in the fourth quarter. Jaden Daniels forced to throw into some tight coverage. His pass got picked off by Reed Blankenship, a big turnover that gave the ball back to Philly, who did not take long to capitalize on that turnover. Did I mention Saquon was building an MVP resume? Well, he added to the CV with another touchdown. This one 39 yards out. A few moves later, he was off to the races. No one catching him. Dynamite touchdown. Eagles were up 26-10. Washington did try to make the score a little more respectable. Jaden Daniels finding former Eagle tight end Zach Ertz in the back of the end zone. With under 30 seconds to go, he secured the 5-yard pass. He'd also secured the 2-point conversion to make it a one-possession game. It was initially called out of bounds, but the replay showed the fancy footwork of Ertz to secure the 2-point try. 26-18 with 28 seconds to go. They had to go for the onside kick, and like most onside kicks with these new rules. This one had no chance. Eagles recovered, held on in the 26-18 win. A massive win for the Eagles as their lead in the NFC East got a little bigger. Now sitting at 8-2 on the season, first in the NFC East, and one of the best records in the entire NFC. Tough loss for the number 2 overall pick, Jaden Daniels. Another learning curve for the young QB in his early year. And the Eagles defense really kept him in check. 22 for 39, 191 yards, a touchdown, and that one interception. The Eagles also limited the mobile quarterback to just 18 yards rushing. So we'll see how Daniels and the 7-4 Commanders bounce back from their first 2-game losing streak of the season. That was a pretty wild Thursday, leading us into Sunday, and we had an AFC matchup with the 2-7 Las Vegas Raiders coming out of their bye week with some new moves on offense. You had Scott Turner having his go at running the offense after head coach Antonio Pierce decided to shake things up with some firings before the bye week. They had a tough task ahead of them, though, heading into Miami, where the 3-6 Dolphins were trying to make a push to sneak into the postseason. So a lot of their injured guys, they're back. They're looking good. They're looking like Dolphins that, we know and love if you're a Dolphins fan. And these Dolphins, they were making big plays to get into the Raiders' territory. Tua Tagovailoa faced some pressure, tried to buy some time, and he got fumbled. Luckily for Miami, they recovered. And then when faced with 3rd and 20, Dolphins got stopped way short, except... How many times have you heard this year? The Raiders, defensive penalty, giving up the first down, holding on the defense, automatic first down, huge. Dolphins are getting the 1st and goal situation when faced with 4th and down. Instead of going for the field goal, they went for it. Quick throw from Tua to Jonnu Smith, 1-yard touchdown. Dolphins are up 7-0. Raiders went on a nice drive trying the match, but they'd have to settle for a field goal where Daniel Carlson hit it through to make it 7-3. Dolphins answered with a field goal of their own, Jason Sanders knocking it through to make it 10-3. And the Raiders went on a nice drive late in the first half, but the Dolphins defense, they bent, but they did not break, forcing another Raiders field goal. Carlson's chip shot made it 10-6. And Miami, that's how we go into halftime, Miami's first drive of the second half, very impressive. Marching down in the Raiders territory, faced with 3rd down. Tyreek would start on the right side of the field, working his way all the way across to the other sideline where he'd secure the Tua Tagovailoa touchdown pass. 8-yard score, Tyreek's 2nd touchdown in as many weeks, and Miami was up 17-6. Raiders needed some kind of momentum. Faced with a 4th and short in their own end, they'd go for it, picking it up, keeping that drive alive, which was massive because the Raiders would continue rolling with the ball, capping their drive off with Gardner Minshew fighting rookie tight end Brock Bowers, scoring the 23-yard touchdown, celebrating with the Donald Trump dance, which was actually cut out of all the highlights, kind of weird. But the Raiders would then go for 2, but Madison had nowhere sniffing that end zone. The Dolphins still led 17-12. Dolphins wanted a response, and boy, did they get one. Deep in Raider territory, Devon Achane would find the edge, scoring on a 2-yard touchdown. Very nice drive, and the Dolphins were up 24-12 early in the 4th. The new Raiders offense, they were not done. They looked to respond, marching down the field. They capped the drive off with Gardner Minshew finding running back Amir Abdullah out of the backfield. He'd catch it, and he was going to get hit by Carter Kohu, but he kind of got out of the way. I don't know if it's a whiff or missed tackle. Regardless, it was a 10-yard touchdown, and they cut the lead to 24-19. Dolphins were looking to answer that touchdown, and they were trying to kill some clock at the same time, but there must have been some defensive confusion by the Raiders. Jonnu Smith, all alone in the middle of the field. He'd catch, pivot, and boom, he's gone. 46-yard touchdown. They went up 31-19. 2nd touchdown in the game for Jonnu Smith. Crowd was going bananas. And in an insane scene that didn't even sound real, saw it on Pat McAfee, crazy touchdown celebration, right? Smith launches the ball, goes way into the crowd, and they're taping. Everyone's got their camera, and they're taping it. And Jonnu Smith's oldest son gets the ball. You couldn't have drawn that up. That shit's magic. It was something else. And the Raiders were like, we got to match this here. So Minshew, he found Jacoby Myers. Wait, not even close. It went right to Jalen Ramsey. Intercepted Minshew. Following that turnover, Dolphins hit another field goal to go up 34-19. And that's how they'd win. They would hold on for the win. They're on a streak now, 2 in a row. Dolphins sitting at 4-6, starting, like I said, to look like the Dolphins we remember. They're clicking. That's how Dolphins talk. But they are clicking offensively. And with a favorable schedule coming out, I don't think we can count these Dolphins out yet. They could continue this run and sneak into the playoffs. For Vegas, this was just another tough game in a tough season. The new look offense performed a little better, I'd say. The Raiders were only down 5 points with just over 4 to go. They were in position to win. But the inability to get a big stop without a penalty and some struggles to run the ball. They just can't run the ball, this team. Led to the Raiders losing their 6th in a row, dropping the 2-8 on the season. Not an ideal campaign for the Raiders in a very tough AFC West. We'll see if Gardner Minshew is still rocking it, starting quarterback next week. I think he will. There's enough positives to build out of that, even though you're 2-8. Yikes. But we'll go to an interconference battle with two teams looking to get some spark in their season. 2-7 Cleveland Browns are coming off a bye week, looking for starting quarterback Jameis Winston. Try to get Cleveland back in the win column. They were on the road visiting 3-7 New Orleans Saints. Saints had a new lease on life, picking up a win with interim head coach Darren Rizzi, snapping that 7-game losing streak, and they were hoping to get a winning streak on. Browns were looking to send an early message, going for it on 4th and short near midfield. The Saints stuffed that run and turned the Browns over on down, giving New Orleans pretty good field position. And they looked to capitalize on that early turnover. The offense marched down the field. Taysom Hill came in the game. You don't know what the Swiss Army knife's going to do. He faked the handoff, and he took it outside, bashing his way into the end zone on a 10-yard touchdown run. Saints up 7-0. Saints got the ball back, and they were moving the ball very effectively. Then they were facing with a 4th and 1. They said, let's go for it, and Derek Carr found Foster Moreau down the field. Obviously, holding call in the play, so it was a nice first down, but it was all for nothing, and New Orleans punted it. And then Cleveland was pinned in their own end. They looked like they were just trying to get some yards, maybe get some more, win the field position battle maybe. But then on a passing play, Jameis Winston rolled out. He spotted an absolute wide open Jerry Jeudy. He'd make the catch. He'd scamper 89 yards for the lengthy touchdown. What a play. This Cleveland team had nothing going for them, and for some reason the Browns were like, we're rolling now, let's go for 2, but that wasn't even close, and they still trailed 7-6. Saints tried some trickery of their own on their drive, making a play with Taysom Hill, tossing it down the field. His deep ball, I don't know where he was looking. It wasn't even close. Denzel Ward intercepted it. Ward's first pick of the season for Cleveland. Offense did nothing with the ball. They kicked it away. And then the Saints time to bust out a huge play. Derek Carr found his new BFF, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Speedy wide receiver scored on a 71-yard touchdown. Another huge score in a game that was just dropping bombs all over, and the Saints led 14-6. Cleveland looked to respond, moving the ball down the field, trying a 51-yard kick with Dustin Hopkins. It didn't have a chance. It was way wide, and Cleveland still trailed 14-6. New Orleans was looking for some late first half points. They looked to pick up a first down when Derek Carr found Taysom Hill, but Hill fumbled the ball before going down, leading the Cleveland recovering. Another Saints drive, another Taysom Hill turnover. And the Browns were looking to add points of their own before halftime. Dustin Hopkins, a chip shot, 32 yards, but he shanked it again. His second miss, but he got lucky. New Orleans was charged with defensive holding, keeping the ball with Cleveland, giving them first and goal. Saints interim head coach Darren Rizzi, who is also a special teams coordinator, absolutely livid. The Browns would get another chance at a field goal after failing to get in the end zone, and Dustin Hopkins would miss the 27-yarder. It wasn't even close. Like, you wondered, is this dude even going to get cut before the end of the game? A wild game in New Orleans, and the Saints led 14-6 at halftime. In the second half, Browns were looking to respond. Jameis Winston would lead them on a nice drive, and then he'd roll out and throw an absolute dart to Elijah Moore in the end zone. Fancy toe tap, scoring on a 30-yard touchdown pass in the back of the end zone. Browns went for 2 this time, which made more sense, and Winston found tight end David Njoku. 2-point conversion tied this one up at 14. Early in the fourth quarter, the Saints were faced with a 4th and 1 inside Browns territory. Now, let's go for it. Taysom Hill had the ball, and he busted through the line, running a 33-yard touchdown in. Another big play put the Saints ahead 21-14. When the Saints punted it, Cleveland got a huge return. Pettis returning at 53 yards. Cleveland punted it, and Saints getting it back with Pettis returning it 53 yards in the Browns territory. From there, New Orleans would work their way into a first and goal situation where Derek Carr would find tight end Juwan Johnson. 1-yard touchdown put them up 28-14. The Saints, they got the ball back again as Cleveland wasn't doing much, and they were just like, let's run this game down. But instead, Taysom Hill put on his best Derrick Henry impersonation, breaking some tackles before busting outside, scoring on a 75-yard touchdown run, sealing the win for the Saints in a big way. Taysom Hill, these numbers were crazy. 7 carries, 138 yards, 3 touchdowns. Also includes a fumble on a pass reception, and he threw an interception. The man literally does it all. And with New Orleans' second win in a row, they moved to 4-7 on the season. We thought the Saints were doomed. They started as darlings. They look doomed. Now, dare we say they can even sneak into the playoffs? I mean, that's a stretch considering some of the games they have coming up. But the Saints are entering their bye week, and we'll see how they come out of it. Hopefully, they don't lose any of this momentum. And then you have the 2-8 Cleveland Browns. A tough game. They fought back. The game was tied at 14 going into the fourth quarter, and things just fell apart. And they fell apart hard. And Cleveland will be playing for their jobs next season. It's basically tryout time. Lots of fights showing on the field, and I don't see this team quitting anytime soon. But a lot of bumpy roads ahead for the Cleveland Browns and another lost season. Big AFC matchup featuring the 4-6 Indianapolis Colts, who flip-flopped at quarterback again, going back to the future franchise quarterback Anthony Richardson. The original discipline was applied by head coach Shane Steichen. That combined with the lackluster play of Joe Flacco, 3-game losing streak. Richardson's back in the game. Funny how that works. Colts were on the road taking on the 3-7 New York Jets. The Jets followed up a big win in Houston with a stinkfest in the desert against the Cardinals. So both teams hungry for a win here. The Colts, they got a nice play with Anthony Richardson showing off that arm finding Josh Downs on a 31-yard play. Would lead to a Matt Gay field goal, and the Colts led 3-0 early. The Jets' offense was struggling. Colts they went on another nice drive with Richardson finding Adonai Mitchell on a 33-yard catch and run. And then when faced with 3rd and goal, the Colts let big man Anthony Richardson roll out. There were 2 defenders in between him and the goal line, and Richardson smashed through them on the way to the end zone. Powerful 2-yard touchdown run, and the Colts were up 10-0 in the second quarter. The Jets had absolutely nothing going their way, so when faced with 4th and short near their own 40, they said, fuck it, let's go for it. They had the tight end come in motion, and he went under center, and Conklin took the snap and tried to sneak. Sneak no good. Huge turnover on downs, and the disastrous first half became more disastrous. It took until less than 2 minutes left in the first half for the Jets to pick up their first offensive first down of the game. But better late than never, and Aaron Rodgers would find running back Breece Hall out of the backfield, scampering 29 yards in for the touchdown, putting the Jets on the board in a game they had no business being on the board, cutting the Colts' lead to 13-7 with just 40 seconds left in the half. Then to start the second half, the Colts got the ball, but Anthony Richardson would fumble it, leaving the Jets recovering with great position. A few plays later, Breece Hall would take a toss and scamper at 18 yards for the touchdown. His second score of the game put the Jets up 14-13. Like, the Jets went from doing absolutely nothing to suddenly leading 14-13 early in the third quarter. It was madness. The Colts had to answer after giving up 14 unanswered points. They'd move down the field, and they'd have a long field goal ahead of them. But Matt Gay knocked it through. 56-yarder, putting the Colts up 16-14. Jets offense had some hiccups as they looked to respond, and they'd have to force a long kicker. Anders Carlson, the 4th different Jet kicker in as many games, and Carlson would nail a 58-yarder. Who had the bigger leg? Putting the Jets up 17-16. And after the Jets offense got the ball back again, they looked like a totally different team than what we saw the first 1 3/4 of the game. Then deep in Colt territory, Aaron Rodgers would play action to one side, tricking the defense before spotting backup tight end Kenny Yeboah. Only his 3rd NFL catch, first at one for a touchdown, 11-yard touchdown, put the Jets up 24-16 early in the fourth quarter. But these Colts weren't done. Anthony Richardson would lead his team down the field, finding Josh Downs again, who made a big catch, and he reached for the end zone, barely breaking the plane, but scoring on the 10-yard play. Colts went for 2 to tie it, but they did not convert, so the Jets still led 24-22. Jets were looking to add to their lead, and Anders Carlson hit a 35-yarder. His second made kick of the game put the Jets up 27-22. Colts got the ball back, and they looked to answer with just under 3 minutes to go. Anthony Richardson, his time, he'd made big plays, finding Alec Pierce on a nice 33-yard play to move the ball down the field. And a few plays later, we'd see what Anthony Richardson can do with the ball. He'd run in his second rushing touchdown again, another physical run. You don't want to get in the way of this guy. 4-yard touchdown. Colts went for 2. Taylor did not make it up the middle. He was denied, and the Colts only had a 1-point lead, 28-27 with 46 seconds left. Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, they got the ball, needing a field goal that could win them the game, but the Colts defense stepped up, stopped the Jets, sealed the game. What a comeback win for the Colts. Much needed for their starting quarterback to come in, take his job, and just own it. Fuck that benching. Moving the Colts to 5-6 on the season, keeping their playoff hopes alive. Anthony Richardson needed that kind of game to remind everyone why he's that guy. He made great decisions in this game, didn't throw any picks. He had that one fumble to start the second half, but this dude played pretty damn well, and I hope he treats his starting quarterback position. That's something that can be taken away from you. That extra job security, it's going to lead to good things, I think. And as said on the prediction episode leading in, you can't even see this guy's ceiling. It's out of sight. But you know who can see it? Richardson's arm. He can fucking still break it. This guy's got a hell of an arm, and if he makes the right decisions, and he can still bulldoze people, but sliding at the right time, he could be the real deal. He still has not played a lot, you know. So it's exciting times, I think. But then, you know, if he makes boneheaded mistakes in the next game, you'll lean on that. But live in the now. Dude played, be balled out. For the Jets, this is par for the course this season. Tough loss on the road. They dropped to 3-8. This is not what Jets fans were expecting at all. The team is falling short of any expectations. They made some moves to try and improve, but they've all fallen short. They fired head coach Robert Saleh after starting the season with a 2-3 record. His replacement, interim head coach Jeff Ulbrich, he's only coached the team to a 1-5 record. A stat that really jumped out to me after the game was Aaron Rodgers' winning percentage as a Jet. .273. That's less than the Sam Darnold era. It's .342. And that makes Zach Wilson at his .364 look like a god. You have to think at 3-8, even if the Jets go on an insane run to end the season, which I mean is probably unlikely, the Jets would probably still miss out on the playoffs. I mean, 6 of their last 8 games have been one-possession games, so they've been in these games, but they've not been able to close them, which for an Aaron Rodgers-led team, it's pretty wild. I mean, a year of disappointments for the Jets, and you wonder how this team will even come out after the bye week. They play the Dolphins twice in the last 5 weeks, so they could always play spoilers to an AFC East rival, but not a lot of cheer about for Jets fans. And it just came out that they fired their GM, a guy who's brought in a lot of good players. So this team is in total disarray, but it's the Jets. What would you expect? The goddamn Jets. Oh, wow. An interconference matchup with 2 battling mascots fresh out of an adventure novel. You had the 7-2 Minnesota Vikings taking their 2-game winning streak on the road, facing off with the 2-7 Tennessee Titans. Same voice for the Vikings and Titans. I didn't know where to go there. But the Titans, they were coming fresh off a loss the week prior. Near midfield, Minnesota, badly executed play. Sam Darnold tossed to Aaron Jones. He never secured the ball. Fumble recovered by Tennessee, giving them pretty good field position. And they moved down the short field. Really nice. Calvin Ridley, nice back shoulder catch from Will Levis. But they'd stall in the red zone. Nick Folk hit a short field goal to go up 3-0. Vikings need to respond after that, and they got it in one big play. A few plays into the drive, Sam Darnold would find a very wide open Jordan Addison. He'd catch the ball, and there wouldn't be a defender in sight. Addison running in 47-yard touchdown, or 47 yards into the end zone, putting the Vikings up 7-3. Vikings looking to add some points. Darnold finding Justin Jefferson on a 31-yard play to get in the Titans' territory. Then we'd see a bunch of plays not go the Titans' way. The Vikings went for it on 4th down. They looked stopped. The Titans were offside, giving the Vikings a 1st down. Then was faced with 4th and goal. The Vikings went for it again, throwing a pass to the end zone, and it was broken up by Mike Brown. Man, a huge hit to break the pass up, except refs threw the flag. Actually, 2 refs threw a flag each. Defenseless receiver personal foul. The explanation after the game was that Brown launched into the defensive receiver, making contact with the chest and neck area. Kind of a tough call that no one really agreed with. The broadcast booth, especially the Titans sideline. And then in this heated moment, Titans head coach Brian Callahan, he picked up a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. He was losing his shit. But I mean, it was pretty valid. It was a brutal call. And if you think of the situation, that's 4th down. Titans get the ball back. But instead, the Vikings get the ball at the 1-yard line. From there, Darnold, he'd sneak into the end zone, creasing Minnesota's lead to 13-3. Got a feel for the Titans on that. That was a swing, a tough call that definitely went against them and left them trailing by 10. After the Titans punted it away, the Vikings would add more points. this time via kicker John Parker Romo. His second game kicking for the Vikings, filling in for injured Will Reichard, who's still on IR. The rookie kicker was lighting it up before his injury. And he looked good knocking through the 40-yard kick. I said about 3 named kickers are always good. John Parker Romo doing his thing. Vikings went up 16-3. Titans were pinned deep in their own territory half through the way through the third quarter. But Mr. Mayo, Will Levis, he showed off that arm, finding a streaking Nick Westbrook-Akini a 98-yard touchdown, the longest play from scrimmage this season. Titans just scored it literally out of nowhere, surprising everyone as they cut that Vikings lead to 16-10 in a snap of the finger. Vikings would need a response, and they'd move the ball methodically down the field. Then deep in Titan territory, Sam Darnold found running back Cam Akers out of the backfield. He'd score on the 3-yard touchdown, increasing Minnesota's lead to 23-10. Titans looked to answer. They'd get a Nick Folk field goal, cutting it to 23-13. Tennessee was running out of time, and Will Levis, he forced a deep, long ball where it was picked off by Harrison Smith, clinching the 23-13 win for the Minnesota Vikings. And what a win for the Vikings. They moved to 8-2 and try to keep up in that very tough NFC North. Sam Darnold, he'd been throwing picks around like Razor Ramon the last few games, so good to see him have a game where he wouldn't throw an interception against a pretty tough defense of Tennessee. So good sign for Vikings fans there. They did struggle to get the running game going. Aaron Jones non-existent, but Sam Darnold made smart plays and the defense played their part. I mean, if you take that 98-yard touchdown out of it, the Vikings numbers are pretty good there. They did not let Will Levis get too comfortable. They only allowed the Titans to run for 33 yards, and now the 2-8 Titans. I mean, you can't win a lot of games running for 33 yards, and I hate to mention it again, but that fourth down with the Vikings picking it up, that personal foul penalty, that was huge. Instead of turning the ball over, which could have led to a touchdown bomb we just saw later, but the Vikings, they got that other chance. They got a chance, punched it in, they did, and they never looked back. Learning curve for Brian Callahan, maybe not to absolutely lose his shit on the officials, deservedly so, though. We saw a boiling point, and we'll see what he can do to try to get his team on track. 2 wins after 10 games. Not good for anybody in the league, but at least the Titans, they can play Will Levis out, I think, the rest of the year. Roll with him. They know what they saw with Rudolph. Will Levis has a high ceiling. Like, not everybody throws 98-yard touchdowns, but they'll see if they want to roll with him going forward or keep losing and keep the eyes on the draft. There's some good rookies coming up there. We go to one of the oldest rivalries in sports. Teams that have been playing against each other since 1921. You had the 6-3 Green Bay Packers heading in the Soldier Field to take on the 4-5 Chicago Bears. A game where the Packers could make some history. At 10 consecutive wins over the Bears, the Packers were looking for 11, obviously, which would be the most consecutive wins by one team over the other in this all-time series. The Pack were coming off a bye week, feeling popping fresh. Well, the Bears lacked offensive pop against the Patriots in their loss the week prior, prompting head coach Matt Eberflus to fire offense coordinator Shane Waldron, replacing him with Thomas Brown, who was promoted from passing game coordinator, meaning that coach Eberflus would be on his third offensive coordinator in 2.5 years. The Bears were also playing without guard Nate Davis, the highest paid lineman on the Bears roster. Had just started 2 games at right guard before getting benched, and now he's cut it. Oh, can't say the full thing or else you have to pay. A huge swing and a miss in free agency for the Bears. They had guaranteed the lineman $19.25 million of his 3-year, $30 million deal just to have him appear in 16 games over 2 years. Not the best investment. Excuse me. The Packers, they started with the ball and drove down the field in no time. 8 plays, less than 4 minutes. Opening the scoring with Jordan Love finding Jaden Reed on a 15-yard touchdown pass, grabbing that 7-0 lead. The Bears responded by taking a long field goal attempt, and Cairo Santos would knock it through. 53-yarder to cut the lead to 7-3. Packers were looking good, getting another drive going, and then faced with 4th and 3, they'd line up to go for it. Jordan Love was able to get one of the Bears to jump offside. We're rocking the cadence, resulting in a neutral zone infraction. Automatic first down for the Packers, kept that drive going. Packers were rocking it in the Bears territory, looking for that touchdown. But just as he's done all season, and for the 8th consecutive game, Jordan Love threw an interception. Another brutal one in the red zone, picked off by Chicago's Terrell Smith. Another back-breaking pick by Love, giving the Bears the ball without picking up any points. It was Jordan Love's league-leading 11th interception, a title he currently shares with two other players, and we'll get to them as we go to their recaps. The Bears' best drive of the game following that pick, marching all the way down the field on the Packers defense. Caleb Williams picking up first downs with his legs, and then inside the 2, the Bears are really killing time. You're like, why are they running the clock down? Then they made you say, no worries, Rashawn Johnson, they handed it off to him, pounding his way into the end zone. Very physical runner, that Rashawn Johnson, and that put the Bears up 10-7 going into halftime. Streak-busting touchdown for the Bears as well, snapping their 26 consecutive drives without a touchdown. That is not a streak you want. The longest drought for the Bears in like 20 years. New offensive coordinator Thomas Brown already paying dividends. Bears started the second half with the ball on a few plays. They were already in Packers territory. Faced with 4th and 2, they were feeling gutsy, and they were able to pick it up when they tossed it Rashawn Johnson. Packers defense would stand up, though, forcing Cairo Santos to another field goal. The 27-yarder put the Bears lead up to 13-7. Packers looked to respond right away. Jordan Love found Christian Watson on a 25-yard play to get in the Bears territory. They kept rolling with it. Josh Jacobs took a run 7 yards in the end zone after the extra point. Pack back up 14-13. Chicago looked to answer as their offense was cooking. They'd go down the field on the Packers and they'd try a DeAndre Swift run outside, which led to some plays right out of a Hollywood motion picture. The play was developing as planned. Linemen setting up a convoy for the running back. Braxton Jones unleashed an insane block on Packers rookie, 4th-round pick out of Oregon, Evan Williams. Kudos to the rookie for sticking his head in there, but he was blown up. That insane block sprung Swift loose, and it really got Tom Brady going in the booth. And then DeAndre Swift made a ridiculous cut downfield, embarrassing Packers Xavier McKinney. It was like a crossover the way he juked, scoring on a 39-yard touchdown run. A very impressive play from like all around, putting the Bears back up. They went for 2. They didn't convert, but they did lead 19-14. Packers were marched down the field, getting to a 1st and goal situation. Faced with 4th and goal, rather than kick it, they'd go for it. Jordan Love didn't throw a pick. Tried to run for the end zone. I mean, good he didn't throw a pick, but bad he got stopped short. Failed 4th down, resulted in a turnover on downs. Bears picked up a few first downs, but they didn't get much out of that, giving it back to Green Bay. And when Green Bay got the ball, they picked up a huge play. Jordan Love looking for Christian Watson down the field. What a catch. And there was no one around him, so shit, get up and run, man. He kept running. The Bears challenged it. Call stood. Replay was amazing. Really showed how nice of a catch it was. In my prediction episode, I said Watson would get going. I said Dobbs. Dobbs not so much, but Watson, yeah. But he was more involved in the offense, looking great out there. And a few plays later, Jordan Love scrambled to the 1-yard line. On the next play, he'd go physical. Quarterback sneak. Packers went for 2. No chance. But they did lead 20-19 with just under 3 to go. The Bears offense looks way different than a week ago. Needing to get in the field goal range, number 1 overall pick Caleb Williams looked amazing leading his team down the field. Finding fellow rookie Roma Dunze on a nice back shoulder throw. Then you find Keenan Allen on the next play. They were rolling. They were running the clock down. They're like 46 yards. We don't need to go any further. Matt Eberflus is like, no, we good here. And Cairo Santos, his kick was a little low. Combined with some pressure up the middle, Green Bay's Carl Brooks looked like a machine, and the field goal was blocked. Another walk-off blocked field goal, just like Kansas City had done to Denver the week prior. Back-to-back weeks, we see a block-off, a term I'm trying to push into existence, by the way. But what an amazing play to seal the 20-19 win for the Packers. Chicago fans look stunned, and as their losing streak to the Green Bay Packers continues. The rivalry is now at a record 11 games straight for the Packers. Crazy win for Green Bay. They played far from their best, still secured the win to go to 7-3, making up for that Lions loss before their bye week. Packers head coach Matt LaFleur, he's owned the NFC North rivals. He's 11-0 against the Bears in his coaching career. And I don't want to sound biased towards my team, but this team has the right pieces to make to the Super Bowl. But with that being said, will all the pieces come together at the right time? I mean, without a doubt, Jordan Love is that guy. But can you get this fucking interception thing figured out? I mean, this isn't something to overlook when you're leading the league in interceptions. It warrants attention. Whether it's a positive or negative, if you're leading something, it's going to be talked about. And that red zone interception that Love threw, it could be the difference between advancing in a postseason or going home early. The margins in the NFL are thin, and Jordan Love's got to get that figured out. Knowing when to risk it for the biscuit or when to take the sack or the incompletion, you know? It's tough, but he's a dude. He'll figure this out. once he nails that, we can enter the best in the NFC Chap. We're not there yet. And although the defense did look suspect at times, Caleb Williams reminded us how prone Green Bay can be to giving up plays to scrambling quarterbacks. So we'll see what defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley can figure out going forwards, because there's a lot of good ballers that can run it at that position. And I mean, kudos to him coming from Boston College, going from the college head coaching ranks to an NFL defense. I mean, not bad. And for the Bears, man, this is a brutal loss. This team looked poised to beat their rivals, move to 500, but a blocked field goal to lose the game. I'm not going to lie. I thought the Packers had lost, but you look at that field goal, and there are a few questions. As alluded earlier, Matt Eberflus just comfortable there. He had time. He could have moved up. But he said, we were in the range and didn't want to risk fumbling the ball, which brought up a weird video online. If you look this eerie video up, there's a video going around of previous head coaches for the Bears, Mark Trestman, Matt Nagy. Mark Trestman, shout out to the Alouettes there, and Matt Nagy having the almost exact post-game presser as Matt Eberflus, talking about similar situations, why we didn't seek more yards before kicking a field goal. Then there's the play itself, a field goal block. It definitely looked like the Bears long snapper is hit with his head down. I mean, it's a penalty. It probably should have been called, but the block off stood. I mean, as a Packers fan, I'm totally okay with that call. I'd hate it the other way, as the Bears should. I wouldn't be happy with that play. It looked like a penalty. The Bears were called on that penalty a few weeks earlier. This got Matt Eberflus straight beefing. He's sending videos into the league office. I mean, nothing usually comes out of that. But I mean, if say some weird situation, they're like, we got to let Cairo Santos kick this again, they could do it. The Packers host the Bears in the season finale. I mean, if you're like, let's add whatever time to this game to let Santos kick another time, it'd be fucking weird, but I doubt we'll see it. But I'm saying that'd be weird. Be cool if it happened, though. Regardless of what potentially could happen, I doubt any of that. The reality is the Bears are 4-6. They're in a tough NFC North. But you gotta love the positives of Thomas Brown. The offense looked way better with him in there. I hope they keep him around. That seems to be a revolving door, the offensive coordinator position in Chicago. You had a battle of kitty mascots coming up, and I was worried in the prediction episode that this could turn into a one-sided beatdown. The interconference matchup featuring the 2-8 Jacksonville Jaguars, and they went into the Lions Den to take on the 9-1 Detroit Lions, and the Jaguars would open with the ball, moving the ball down the field a little bit. But not so much so, setting up a very long field goal where Cam Little would step up and bury a 59-yarder. New career long for Little as he put the Jags up 3-0. I mean, if the game ended right there, things would have been good for the Jaguars, but it didn't. And that juggernaut of a Lions offense would take no time response, immediately going down the field in the Jacksonville territory. From there, Knuckles or David Montgomery would punch in a 2-yard touchdown run. Lions up 7-3. Lions defense got the offense the ball right back, and that offense was rolling, going down the field again. This time it was Sonic's time to score. Jahmyr Gibbs, scampering outside, 1-yard touchdown run. Lions up 14-3 after trailing 3-0. Lions got it back again, and there was nothing Jacksonville could do about this offense. The Lions marched on them again, capping the drive off with Montgomery's second touchdown of the game. 2 touchdowns for Knuckles, 1 for Sonic. Detroit's up 21-3. The Lions would again stop Jacksonville, getting the ball back, and this time Jared Goff would find Sonic out of the backfield. Jahmyr Gibbs going 55 yards down the field to get in the Jags territory. A few plays later, Goff found Amon-Ra St. Brown. With just under 3 minutes to go, Detroit was up 28-3. Jacksonville did get a field goal as first half expired and go to make it 28-6, but it wasn't looking good. Detroit's second half, they were following suit at the first. Jared Goff finding Jameson Williams wide open. He showed off the speed, scampering 64 yards into the touch for the end zone, finishing with a classic Marshawn Lynch hold my dick moment as he broke the plane. Detroit's onslaught continued, leading 35-6. Lions would not stop. They'd get the ball back, and they'd move the ball down the field again, picking up a 4th down conversion on the play. They'd cap that drive off with Jared Goff finding backup tight end Brock Wright on a 5-yard score. Lions up 42-6. Jags again not doing anything, so the ball goes back to Detroit, and they can't stop, won't stop. Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 9-yard touchdown, that second touchdown connection of the game. Fourth touchdown for Goff. Lions led 49-6. They get another tasty 50 burger this season. Their second of the year. When Jake Bates hit a 54-yard field goal, and the score was ugly as it looked. Detroit winning 52-6. The Detroit Lions are the most dangerous team in the NFL, much like Lions in the real world, I suppose. This team lights you up offensively, and before you can react, you're already down a few touchdowns, and then you throw your game plan out the window trying to get back into it. Then you're done, son. It's craziness in Detroit. And as I said, they've already got their second game going over the half-century mark. They surpassed 40 points 4 times this season. Jared Goff went from 5 picks last week, 4 touchdowns, no picks this week. The 1-2 punch of Sonic and Knuckles, best running back duo in the league. There was some bad news for the Lions in this game. Linebacker Alex Anzalone, he went in for a tackle, wound up breaking his forearm. It looked bad. The linebacker has been put on IR, expected to miss at least 6 to 8 weeks. Another tough blow to a defensive side that lost superstar Aiden Hutchinson back in week 6 against the Cowboys when he broke his tibia and fibula. The only realistic chance of Hutchinson's coming back is if the team makes the Super Bowl. And I mean, the way they're playing, is that really that far-fetched? For the Jaguars, this may be a new low. From the hopes and dreams of postseason play, with one owner calling this the best team ever assembled in franchise history, to be sitting at 2-9, occupying the basement of the disappointing AFC South. Oy, your high-paid franchise quarterback's gone. Backup Mac Jones is fighting for his life out there. The running game only got 41 yards. I mean, it's tough to get anything going rushing-wise when you're down multiple touchdowns, but this Jags team looks defeated. They're going into their bye week, and you have to wonder if Doug Peterson will still be coaching coming out of it. And it's one thing to have a disappointing season, but to have such a season with such high expectations, that to have them fall so low. I mean, it's tough to be a Jags fan right now. Hopefully no one out there predicted them to make the postseason this year. That is one of the worst predictions I've ever done since creating a podcast. So thank you, Jacksonville, for that stain on my resume. And another interconference bout featuring the 4-5 Los Angeles Rams flying across the United States to take on the 3-7 New England Patriots. The Rams were looking to avenge a tough loss to the Dolphins at home, while the Patriots were coming in winners of 2 of their last 3, beating up on the Bears the week prior. Both teams had the ball, had the punt, but the Patriots got the ball back and went on a nice drive going in the Rams' territory. A few plays later, number 3 overall pick Drake May made an impressive throw to the end zone, finding Kendrick Bourne on a 9-yard touchdown toss. The nice toss and grab gave the Patriots a 7-0 lead. The Rams offense went on an impressive drive with Puka Nacua picking up some physical plays after the catch. Then they'd get into the red zone, and Stafford would find Cooper Kupp on a 5-yard touchdown pass, tying the game up at 7. And it was the 35th different stadium Matthew Stafford's thrown a touchdown in. So we made a little history there at Gillette Stadium. The Patriots drive, Drake May dropped back to throw, and he got hit, and he was sacked, and he fumbled. The Rams recovered with great field position. A few plays later, Matthew Stafford found Puka Nacua in the end zone. Nacua laid out for the ball. What a catch. What a highlight. He secured it, ball underneath, boom, Rams up 14-7, taking their first lead of the game. Patriots looked to answer and move the ball down the field, get in the field goal range, but it would settle for a Joey Sly 32-yard kick, cutting that lead to 14-10 just after the 2-minute warning. The Rams were like, well, we ain't going to halftime like this. We moved the ball down the field in no time. Stafford finding all his receivers with precision, leading to a chip shot for the Rams, and rookie kicker Joshua Carty, doink, surprising everyone, nailing it off the uprights. The Rams ended that late first half drive with no points, but still led going in the halftime 14-10. Rams started the second half missing out on 3 points to end the half, but looked pretty unbothered. The second play of the second half, Matthew Stafford threw a perfect dart to Cooper Kupp. The DB had no defensive help behind him, and Cooper Kupp scored one of the easiest 69-yard touchdowns you'll ever see. And with that score, the Rams were up 21-10, not even a minute into the third quarter. Patriots looked to answer, marching down the field, getting to a first-and-goal situation. The Rams would make 3 straight stops, though, making Sly knock through another field goal to make it a one-possession game at 21-13. The Rams would respond, though, moving down the field again. Matthew Stafford spreading the ball around. He'd then roll out and find tight end Kobe Parkinson in the back of the end zone. Tight end showing off the nice hands on the sick 19-yard touchdown grab. Parkinson would then totally take out a security guard right at the back of the knees. Swear her head smashed into the ground. It looked bad, but she popped up. She was good to go. And just like that, the Rams are up 28-13. First time that Stafford even looked Parkinson's way in 3 games. But hey, what better time than now? Except that security guard probably didn't like that. But the Patriots, they were not giving up. You got like what you saw out of Drake May. Impressive drive leading his team down the field. Then went inside the 5. The Pats pulled off a little trick play. Everyone's expecting a physical run with the jumbo line out there, but no one was expecting lineman Vidarian Lowe to get open. The big man secured the 4-yard touchdown pass, securing the thick 6. The extra point blocked by the Rams, and it was a huge block because they kept it a 2-possession game at 28-19. Patriots got the ball back and made it a 1-possession game with another Joey Sly field goal with under 5 minutes to go, cutting that Rams lead to 28-22. And the Patriots got the ball back again. That defense was hustling. They get another chance to try to take the lead. Rookie quarterback Drake May looked down the field looking for his receiver, but his receiver was not looking back, resulting in a game-clinching interception for the Rams' Cameron Kitchens. That interception gave the ball back to the Rams. He ran the clock down to end the game. The 3rd interception in 3 games for 3rd-round rookie out of Miami. Cameron Kitchens has been turning it up lately. So a big 28-22 road win for the Rams, moving them to 5-5 as they stay afloat in the wild NFC West. Matthew Stafford, man, he looked good this game. Check these numbers. 24 for 27, 295 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. He was lighting it up. Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, both went over for 100 yards receiving. Puka with that 1 touchdown, Kupp with 2. Kieran Williams was picking up big yardage every time he got the ball. They just didn't need him to run much. The offense was clicking. You got to give credit to that Rams defense and the rookies who were making the plays. Again, we got to give a shout out to GM Les Snead and what he's done with his whole crew here, this whole draft class, balling out. Obviously, 1st-rounder Jared Verse, his pressure on the quarterback, something else. You have safety Cameron Kitchens, who I alluded to earlier, has been just picking everybody off lately. 2nd-round pick, Braden Fisk, he's making big plays in the middle of defense. You got 6th-round pick, Tyler Davis. He's been playing good. 5th-round pick, Brennan Jackson played. Didn't have as big an impact as those other dudes I mentioned, but what a 2024 draft class for the Rams. It's pretty amazing. Again, shout out to that scouting personnel. They got it done. For the Patriots, this is another close loss that happens to teams in a rebuild. Dropping the 3-8 on the season, but the Patriots were right there. They had a few chances to try and take the lead late, but just couldn't come up with the game-winning plays to do so. That miscommunication with Drake May and his receiver late in the game, that kind of summed up the visuals of a team learning on the fly. Plenty of positives, though. I know a loss, and no one's pumped about a loss, but if you have your rookie quarterback throwing the ball 40 times, you're probably not in the game. But this was a 1-possession game, and Drake May's numbers, they weren't that bad. 30 for 40, 282 yards, 2 touchdowns. That late pick, he had 27 yards with his legs. But I see why he doesn't want to run too much. He's not the biggest guy up there. He's going to have to bulk up a bit to take some of these hits in the NFL, but Patriots, they stuck with them, and they were in the game. So even though it wasn't always effective, their running game, they kept at it. They didn't pick up yards, but they kept it honest. So I like the development of this team under Gerard Mayo. The coaching staff seems to be the right fit. They're just on the rebuild, and they got to take their lumps, right? So they're going to come out, they're going to fight hard, and what else can you ask for out of a rebuilding team? So they're just going to try to play spoilers throughout the rest of the year, but I don't doubt this leadership of this coaching staff at all. And this brings us to an AFC North matchup that we're always so grateful we get to witness twice a year. 7-3 Baltimore Ravens, they went into Steel Town to take on the division-leading 7-2 Pittsburgh Steelers. The first of 2 matches this season, and this one had a lot on the line. The winner take control of the division lead. The Ravens started with the ball, looking to get a nice early start, except second play of the game, Derrick Henry would get the ball punched out from behind by Nick Herbig. He made a huge play in his return to the lineup from injury, and former Raven Deshaun Elliott recovered the fumble, giving Pittsburgh great field possession for their first drive, and it was the first fumble by Derrick Henry in 538 touches. He does not fumble often, but he sure did there. The Ravens defense backed up Henry, though, forcing a field goal for Chris Boswell. Get used to hearing that. He knocked through a 32-yarder to put the Steelers up 3-0. The Ravens would get a drive where Lamar Jackson found a tight end, Isaiah Likely, on a 42-yard play to get in the Steelers' territory. The Steelers' defense forced a field goal, and Justin Tucker's nightmare of his season continued. The most accurate kicker in NFL history He's going to lose that title soon. He keeps it up. Tucker would miss a 47-yard field goal to tie the game. And after that miss, Steelers led 3-0. Amazing to see the fall of Justin Tucker this season, who's having his worst kicking season ever by far. After the missed field goal, the Steelers would get faced with a 4th and short in their own territory. Mike Tomlin was feeling aggressive and went for it, except Baltimore was ready, and Najee Harris had nowhere to go, getting stopped, turnover on downs, giving the Ravens some pretty good ball position. And they'd get in the field goal range, sending out Justin Tucker, this one a little longer from 50 yards, and he'd miss again. He looked shook. The nightmare continues. 2 field goal attempts. The Ravens still trailed 3-0. Pittsburgh would take advantage of that missed kick, flexing on the Ravens, knocking through a 52-yard field goal. Boswell putting the Steelers up 6-0. On the Ravens' next drive, the bottled up Derrick Henry finally got some space. He's a peacock. You got to let him fly. And Henry busted out a 31-yard run to get in the Steelers' territory. A few plays later, they got close to the goal line where Derrick Henry would punch in the 1-yard touchdown. After the score, there were a lot of eyes on Justin Tucker, but he hit this extra point, and the Ravens led for the first time in the game 7-6 with just a minute 16 left in the half. The Ravens had the ball again, looking to try to take their lead in the halftime, but Ravens tight end Isaiah Likely had the ball stripped by former Raven Patrick Queen. Steelers recovered with great field position, and from that spot, the Steelers would get their third Chris Boswell field goal of the half, 31 yards out, and the Steelers led 9-7 at halftime. To open the second half, Steelers looked for more points, and who'd they go to? Chris Boswell. He'd nail a 57-yard field goal and increase the lead to 12-7. Boswell 12, Ravens 7. The Ravens would get some points back in response. Justin Tucker with his third kick of the game, finally making one. 54-yarder, wasn't a chip shot by any means to cut the lead to 12-10. Show everyone he's not done yet. In a game of Chris Boswell's leg versus Baltimore, Boswell would hit another field goal, 27 yards, to increase the lead to 15-10. Pittsburgh got in the field goal range with a nice throw from Wilson the Pickens. They just couldn't get into the end zone. The Steelers were driving again, looking to add to that lead deep in Ravens territory. Russell Wilson rolling out. He had all the time in the world, and he looked at Darnell Washington. He looked back, and they just had no chemistry on that. Russ's pass went way over his head, right into the hands of Ravens' Marlon Humphrey. A big Steelers drive with no points. It probably would have ended in a field goal, but it was an interception, and Baltimore was very much alive in this game. The Ravens were looking to try to get that lead back. Lamar Jackson tossing a long ball to Justice Hill. He looked to have it, but it was ripped away by linebacker Peyton Wilson. Give me that. An outrageous interception that gave the ball back to the Steelers. You can't blame Lamar on that one. The Ravens would get another chance to try and come back. They'd move the ball down the field, picking up big plays throughout. They looked to get a big first down, but an ineligible receiver downfield negated the play. The next play, Jackson rolled out, found Justice Hill again on another play to pick up a first down. Then Jackson found Zay Flowers on a 16-yard touchdown. He backed in the end zone Michael Jackson style, but the Ravens were still needing 2 to tie it. Lamar Jackson, he rolled out. He couldn't find anybody. The pass fell incomplete. Failed attempt. Joey Porter Jr. is really chasing Lamar on that one. A huge failed conversion because Pittsburgh still led 18-16. The Ravens had 3 timeouts, and they're like, fuck it, we'll kick it deep and we'll let the defense do their thing. Steelers came out with a different strategy, bringing out Justin Fields. He made a nice run, looking like he was going to pick up that first down, but he slid too early. They mark you where you slide, so it was a 9-yard gain, setting up a nervy 3rd and 1. Fields handed off to Najee Harris, who picked up the first down, setting up the victory formation. A dramatic game, as they always are in the AFC North between these two. Pittsburgh holding on for the 18-16 win at home. A monster win for Pittsburgh as they extend their lead in the AFC North, now sitting at 8-2, one of the best records in the AFC. The job Mike Tomlin's done on this team is phenomenal. And it was a big play by former Raven Patrick Queen. He wasn't wanted back by the Ravens, and the Steelers were very happy to pick him up, even prompting head coach Mike Tomlin after the game to say, "One man's trash is another man's treasure," not only praising his new addition, but slapping his opposition a little bit with that comment. But at the end of the day, the Steelers team is one of the best in the league. Doing it the Steeler way, they're going to be a tough out for anybody. The Ravens now fall to 7-4. They fought back. They were in position to try and tie it up late. Just fell short. Lamar Jackson was heroic on that drive, but overall wasn't one of his better games. The Steelers did what not many can do, and that's limit Baltimore's team rushing to 124 yards. Derrick Henry only had 13 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown. The Ravens did not play their best, but they were right there with the Steelers. And who would have thought what cost the Ravens was their kicking? Potential GOAT kicker Justin Tucker, his season of struggling continues. We've never seen Tucker kick like this. He's made just 16 of 22 field goal attempts, a whopping 72.7%, easily the worst of his career. He's missed an extra point this year. I don't know if it's the yips, it's an immediately sudden decline of an amazing kicker, but I don't know. He's got to figure it out. If Baltimore has any Super Bowl dreams, they're going to have to figure this out. He was even called out by head coach John Harbaugh after the game, something that's unheard of, saying Tuck needs to make kicks, and he knows that. It's important. Maybe that's a little bit of fire under Tucker that could change his recent play, or maybe he'll make it worse. We'll see, but it's astonishing to see what he's doing this year. And a reminder that kicking is hard, as Pat McAfee likes to remind us, and that Tucker is actually a human being, but can he regain his kicking form in time for the Ravens' big Week 12 matchup? We'll find next week on the NFL. But you got to love those AFC North battles. We're going to go to an important NFC West matchup. Two teams who are very much alive in that wacky division. The 4-5 Seattle Seahawks coming in off a bye week, taking on the 5-4 San Francisco 49ers, who are rocking a little 2-game winning streak. Seahawks looked impressive moving the ball to start. Geno Smith looking for wide receiver Jackson Smith and Jigba. 49ers would then force the Seahawks into a field goal attempt where Jason Myers would nail it from 52 yards out. Sorry, didn't need a sip there. 49ers look for a quick response. Brock Purdy orchestrating a nice drive down the field, and then late in the first quarter on 2nd and goal, Brock Purdy dropped back the pass, found no one, sprinted for the pylon, dove for it, scoring on the 10-yard run. 49ers going up 7-3. 49ers' next possession, Brock Purdy looked for a receiver, but Devon Witherspoon broke up the pass, and Jonathan Hankins, in his 162nd career game, making the big man interception, showing off the athleticism on the play, giving the Seahawks fantastic field possession. The offense didn't do much to help, and after a 3rd down sack, they made it hard for Jason Myers, but he buried the 57-yard kick, cutting the 49ers lead to 7-6. To start second half, the Seahawks were looking to take the lead. To start their drive off, Geno Smith threw a bad interception to Isaac Yiadom, overthrowing his wide receiver right into the hands of the DB, setting San Francisco up with great position. And that was the 11th interception by Geno Smith. So if you remember earlier, Geno tied him with Jordan Love and another player to be named later, but the Seahawks defense picked up a red zone stop, forcing Jake Moody to a 33-yard field goal, and San Francisco increased their lead to 10-6. Seahawks were looking for an answer, and they got a little bit of help, fortunately because of the injury bug. Former NFL Defensive Player of the Year Nick Bosa would leave the field holding his side. He tried to come back out and play, but he was visibly bothered and had to leave the field, looking like an oblique injury. And with Bosa out of the game, Geno Smith started cooking, finding DK Metcalf, who made his return to the lineup. Then he'd find Smith and Jigba, who got closer to the end zone, and a few plays later, Kenneth Walker, Texas Ranger, would punch in the 1-yard touchdown run, and Seattle would have the 13-10 lead. 49ers now, they needed a response. They'd go on an impressive drive. A lot of Christian McCaffrey on that drive, but even more Juwan Jennings. Brock Purdy found the wide receiver on a few 3rd and long plays. Big first down conversions to keep that drive alive. And fittingly, the drive ended with a play action, leading the Purdy rolling out and finding a very wide open Jennings. 3-yard touchdown put the Niners back up 17-13 early in the 4th quarter. We continue to have a wild 4th quarter as the 49ers look to try to answer, as the Seahawks tried to answer, and after picking up a big 4th down with Kenneth Walker, the Seahawks would face another 4th down, but instead of going with Walker again, they'd go with Zach Charbonnet, and the 49ers treated him like a glass of Chardonnay throwing it down. A massive turnover on downs with a little under 4 minutes to go. 49ers killed some time off the clock, but the Seahawks defense stood up and forced a punt, which resulted in a comeback. So Geno Smith and the Seahawks would get the ball down 4 with 2:38 left in the game. Geno needed an impressive drive, and what a roller coaster it was. He found Metcalf to get things going. He then looked for Jackson Smith and Jigba, who was someone in my fantasy football league says is always open. He always seems open. He'd pick up some big first downs. Then things looked a little troubling after Geno was sacked by Leonard Floyd, pushing Seattle back. But on the very next play, Geno used those legs to run for a huge first down, making up for the sack and then some, also burning their last time out with just 39 seconds left. Next play found Smith and Jigba to get a little closer, and on the next play, with that clock still continuing to go, tick, 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 Geno Smith would drop back. He saw the lane, and he went for it, using that pace to past the defenders, get to the pylon, a dramatic play, put the Seahawks up with just 12 seconds left. 13-yard touchdown run, huge by Geno Smith, hitting them with the Steph Curry night. Some say a little too soon, but well warranted. The 49ers tried some late game trickery to make anything happen. It fell. Huge comeback for Seahawks on the road. The roller coaster known as Geno Smith at quarterback continues to entertain. Massive road win. Seahawks 5-5 is mentioned in the very wide open NFC West. I mentioned the Arizona Cardinals were on a bye. They lead the division at 6-4, but with the outcomes of the games on Sunday, the three other teams in the division, Rams, Seahawks, 49ers, are all tied at 5-5. That shows you how big of a win this was for Seattle. Geno Smith silencing some critics for at least one more game. Jackson Smith and Jigba may be the best wide receiver we're not talking about enough. Someone we need to be talking about more. Jackson Smith and Jigba. He may not get as much publicity as DK Metcalf, the jacked receiver, or Seahawk legend Tyler Lockett, but the Ohio State standout is really coming into his own this season. As great as a win it was for Seattle, it was just as big a loss for the 49ers. They looked primed to share the division lead with the Cardinals before giving up that late touchdown to Seattle. There was an obvious difference when Nick Bosa was off the field. With him out of the game, the Seahawks just took advantage, as a team would try to do. San Francisco, they couldn't do enough to secure the win. The depth of this team has been tested all year, and that loss to the Seahawks could be a determining factor on whether last year's Super Bowl runners-ups even make the playoffs this season. 49ers George Kittle missed the game, the hamstring injury. So two big names to keep your eyes on the injury report going in the Week 12. Tight end George Kittle and Nick Bosa. Two guys that each impact this team in different ways, but huge ways. Two big losses for them. Another intriguing interconference matchup in the week. We had two teams having decent seasons. The NFC South leading Atlanta Falcons and their 6-4 record, heading into Colorado to face off with the 5-5 Denver Broncos. Falcons were coming off that tough loss to the Saints, while the Broncos were coming off that insane walk-off to the Kansas City Chiefs, blocking Will Lutz's game-winning kick. So both teams were needing a win to boost the morale. Broncos started the game with the ball, and Bo Nix would lead his team on an impressive opening drive, eating up almost 5 minutes as they marched down the field, getting to the red zone where Bo Nix would draw back, have tons of time, find a very wide-open Nate Adkins, and the tight end would score on the 12-yard touchdown. His second touchdown of the season gave the Broncos the early 7-0 lead. Falcons answered by going on a nice drive of their own, but not making the end zone, instead settling for a 41-yard ANYWHO kick. He needed some kicks to go in, and this one went in to make it 7-3. The second quarter, Bo Nix found Marvin Mims Jr., big 36-yard play to get in the Falcons' territory. As the drive continued, you'd see Denver's offense fire on all cylinders, capping the drive off with a very physical Javonte Williams run. He tried a power run to get in the end zone. He looked to be stopped short, but like the linemen, they scooped him up and just took him in there. Crazy play showing off the physicality of that Broncos offensive line, and that 14-yard touchdown put him up 14-3. Falcons again were looking to answer, and faced with 4th and 1, they'd pick it up with Kirk Cousins find Drake London down the field. A few plays later, they'd attempt a long field goal, and ANYWHO would knock it through, a 51-yarder, cutting the lead to 14-6 with under 3 minutes to go in the half. But those Broncos were not content going in the halftime with that lead. They'd look for some quick points. Bo Nix finding Devon Vele down the field, 34-yard play, getting the field goal range in no time, and the Broncos would run that clock down, continuing their drive, capping it off with a wide receiver screen, the Mims Jr. He'd catch that ball, follow his blockers to the end zone, putting them up 21-6 going in the halftime. Falcons were trying to get some late points in the half. Cousins found Drake London down the field, but he was inbounds and the first half expired. But the Falcons got the ball to start the second half, and they just have to punch it away, though, which led to Marvin Mims getting a nice return on the punt, going deep in the Falcons' territory. Falcons defense stepped up, forcing a 4th down, and little Jordan Humphrey dropped a Bo Nix pass. It looked like he had it, dropped it, but the play was challenged, and it showed he caught it, and he fumbled it. I mean, it was an interesting call to overturn. It looked like an incompletion, but they said, he had it just long enough, and then he dropped it. I mean, a tough call that really went against the Falcons. And then it went even worse as the Broncos would go back to that wide receiver screen. This time, Bo Nix finding Troy Franklin, who took the short pass and ran 7 yards for the touchdown, putting Denver up 28-6. Falcons were needing points. Kirk Cousins had his team moving down the field. Then on a passing play, Kirk had all the time in the world. He just did not see Broncos Cody Barton, throwing it right to the linebacker, picking up his first pick of the season. And the Broncos took advantage of that turnover. Well, they tried to. They'd end up punting it to the Falcons, pitting their deep in their own end, where they just give it right back to Denver, giving them great field position. And Bo Nix would throw up a jump ball for Cortland Sutton. A beautiful toss by a team that's looking like their chemistry's getting developed here. The drive would stall, leading to a Will Lutz kick. First kick of the game for him, 45 yards out. Wasn't blocked, and they went up 31-6 early in the fourth quarter. Atlanta got the ball back, and when facing third and long, Benito would sack Kirk Cousins, forcing another punt where Denver would take it down and add another score. Getting in the Falcon territory, Bo Nix would roll out and throw a strike to little Jordan Humphrey, showing off the after-catch ability, scampering through the defense into the end zone, a 41-yard touchdown, and Denver put the game even further out of reach at 38-6. That was it for Kirk. No more reasons to try and injure him. So we got to see 8th overall pick in the draft. Michael Penix Jr. gets some reps. Come out to finish the game, not put up any points, and this beatdown was a beatdown. Atlanta going into the Mile High City and losing 38-6. Big on Denver. They moved to 500, above 500, going to 6-5, keeping their playoff hopes alive in that tough AFC West. Looking like one of the best divisions in the NFL right now. Number 12 overall pick, Bo Nix. He's looking like a potential offensive rookie of the year. And to think Atlanta had their pick 4 spots ahead of the Broncos and went with Penix Jr. I mean, Penix Jr. could turn out to be a stud, but Bo Nix is he's setting off that stud detector right now. 28 for 33, 307 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. That's a lights out game for any quarterback, yet alone a rookie quarterback. You wondered how the rookie would respond after that devastating loss to the Chiefs in the block-off, and he responded how a seasoned vet would. Maybe drafting an older quarterback in the draft isn't as bad as the scouts like to make it out to be. Broncos teams look like they can play with anybody any day. And for Atlanta, man, they stunk it up in the Mile High City. I don't know if they just didn't respect the Broncos, lack of preparation, high altitude, but they look bad all around. I keep talking about this dynamic running back duo, Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. Or so I thought. It's like they've lost their identity. Robinson, 12 carries, 35 yards. He couldn't get that going. Tyler Algier didn't even get a carry. He caught one pass for -1 yards. I mean, that seems ridiculous. I don't know how he's not getting touches. I mean, I know the team got down early, and physical backs running is probably not going to get you into the game. And they did go to more passing situations where they brought in 6th-round pick out of Alabama, Jace McClellan. I mean, he's a better receiver than Algier, but man, with that running game non-existent, 50 rushing yards on the game, Kirk Cousins is going to be limited in what he can do. The threat of the running game is what elevates Kirk O'Chains into the next level in the trap, but right now he's not looking too good. And the head coach, Raheem Morris, he's got to figure this out. They're 6-5, losers of 2 in a row. They've left that NFC South division door a little ajar, so the Falcons going to this bye week, they got to rest some of their guys. Raheem Morris we're going to see what this team's looking like coming out of a bye because they got to change something up. I don't want to sound like a broken record saying potential game of the week here because I think this was the one, a rematch of the AFC divisional game and AFC divisional playoff game last year. The undefeated 9-0 Kansas City Chiefs and the home team 8-2 Buffalo. The Bills were trying to end the Chiefs' winning streak as they had a franchise record 15-game winning streak coming in here, while the Bills were trying to exercise some demons of playoff games past. Well, the Chiefs, they'd start the game with the ball, and around midfield, Mahomes bought some time, but he got hit as he threw, and his pass, it sailed right into the arms of Taylor Rapp. A huge interception to start the game for Mahomes. He was thrown a lot this season, and Buffalo got great position for their first possession. Josh Allen, he looked great slinging it to start the game, finding Amari Cooper down the sideline, a nice one-handed catch. He then spread the ball around, finding Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir, before capping the drive off with a 3-yard James Cook touchdown. However, Tyler Bassman, he'd missed the extra point. Tyler Bass missed it, and Buffalo only led 6-0. Chiefs were needing an answer, and Patrick Mahomes led his team down the field. Lots of first-round pick out of Texas, Xavier Worthy. He's making big plays on the drive, so naturally it felt right that Kansas City would cap the drive off with Mahomes finding Worthy on a short pass. He'd sprint to the end zone pylon, breaking the plane for the 10-yard touchdown. To kick the point, we would not see Harrison Butker. Chiefs' highly paid kicker had picked up a knee injury and was placed on IR. So the Chiefs had signed Spencer Schrader, who you may have remembered kicked for the Jets last week. He was available. The Chiefs picked him up, and Schrader hit his extra point, putting the Chiefs up 7-6. It must have been tough for Buffalo seeing Xavier Worthy kill it in person. We know the Bills had traded that 28th pick to the Chiefs, who had used that pick to draft Worthy. It was the Bills' turn to respond, and that's just what they did. Josh Allen making big throws to Dawson Knox. The tight end had an increased role with the injury to fellow tight end Dalton Kincaid. And another big grab by Amari Cooper, who was making his first impression in his first ever Bills-Chiefs matchup. And that drive ended very much like the Bills' first drive, another James Cook touchdown run. This run from 6 yards out, and the kick was good this time, so Buffalo led 13-7. KC looked to answer again, but Buffalo's defense stepped up, forcing a punt, where Buffalo's returner, Brandon Codrington, had a nice return, bringing the ball in the Kansas City territory. Bills were faced with 4th and 3 and went for it rather than a long field goal attempt. Josh Allen dropped back, but he and tight end Dawson Knox were not on the same page. Allen's throw went right into the hands of Kansas City's Chamari Connor, who had a nice return, bringing in the Buffalo territory. Kansas City capitalized on that turnover, moving the ball down the short field on 3rd and goal, just as he's done plenty of times before. Broadcaster Tony Romo said the Bills need to watch the pylons on each end, and then he circled 2 gaps that Kansas City likes to use. And then, immediately after the ball was snapped, Mahomes found Noah Gray, scoring the 2-yard touchdown pass, almost in the exact spot where Romo drew his circle. Some good football watching right there. And the Chiefs went up 14-13 with just under 3 to go in the first half. The Bills were looking to add some points before the break, and they'd get some big plays to get in Kansas City territory. They'd settle for a 33-yard field goal attempt for the Bass man, and he nailed it, putting Buffalo up 16-14 going into halftime. In the second half, it was the defense time to shine. Both sides playing well, forcing both of these good offenses to punt the ball away. Then late in the third quarter, the Bills were rolling on a nice drive. A big pass interference penalty helped out with that. Then a pass to Shakir out of the backfield left us some big yards after the catch. And while in the red zone, Kansas City's defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, he'd bring the house all-out blitz, try to cause some chaos. Instead, Josh Allen bought enough time to find a wide-open Curtis Samuel. He'd score on a 12-yard touchdown pass, and that's the thing with such an aggressive blitz. If you're not getting to the quarterback, you're going to get burned, and Josh Allen burned them to increase the lead to 23-14 early in the fourth quarter. Kansas City got the ball back, looking to respond with a big drive to stay alive in the game and keep their unbeaten run going. Patrick Mahomes looked great on that drive, spreading it around, and Kareem Hunt had his best run of the game, getting the Chiefs into a 1st and goal situation. On 2nd down, Mahomes' receivers, they all looked covered, so he rolled out, tried to buy time, and just as he got hit, he threw a perfect ball to Noah Gray in the back of the end zone. 1-yard touchdown catch for Gray, his 2nd of the game. Chiefs had cut the lead to 23-21 with just under 8 to go in the 4th. You could feel the uneasiness in the Bills crowd as they got the ball back. You know it was the Bills fans' first rodeo. So Buffalo, they needed some time to try to eat some clock and maybe get some points. They started the drive off looking great. Allen looked poised to find his receivers. He's picking up first down with his legs, running that clock, and then a huge play. Inside Chiefs territory, well within field goal range, the Bills faced 4th and 2. 2:27 on the clock. Sean McDermott, huge decision. He said, let's go for it. Knowing a field goal would put Buffalo at 5, give it back to Mahomes with a chance to win. So Josh Allen dropped back, moved around a bit, pump faked, and then he took off. Nice cut, and boom. Running past Chiefs defenders before blasting through the last few to get into the end zone. 26-yard touchdown run on 4th down. The stadium went bananas. Jim Nantz called it the play of the year in the NFL. Mainly because not just of the play itself, but of who it was against, the magnitude of it, the demons being exercised. It was everything. I mean, talk about pressure on an extra point on Tyler Bass. I mean, he missed one earlier. He nailed this one, like I said, big, making it a 2-possession game, 30-21. So the Chiefs got it back, just over 2 to go, down 9. Not looking good. I mean, even with Patrick Mahomes, this is going to be tough. So the Chiefs, they were forcing the 4th and long. Mahomes looked deep for Travis Kelce. It was a forced throw, and it was intercepted by Buffalo's Terrell Bernard. Game-sealing interception, the second interception thrown by Mahomes in the game. The 11th of the season, which is, if you're keeping track, this insane trio that's leading the league in interceptions. Patrick Mahomes, Jordan Love, Geno Smith, all at 11. It's mind-boggling to me, and they're all winning. You know, I mean, the Seahawks are at 500, but I mean, to be leading the league in interceptions, these numbers are crazy. The NFL is wild. But that interception led to Buffalo going in the victory formation, sealing the 30-21 win. A huge win for the Bills to get that monkey off their back, losing to the Chiefs lately. Just as predicted by yours truly on the episode, I said I don't go with Chiefs against the Chiefs, but with the Bills I am. And I mean, it's nice when it works out. You forget about the whole Jacksonville fiasco. But, you got to remember, it's just a regular season game, though. We got to see what happens in the postseason. I mean, I don't want to sound like a Buzz Killington, but Buffalo picked up a massive win to move to 9-2, running away with that AFC East and looking like a potential Super Bowl team. Josh Allen was clutch. He was great in the clutch. I said it would come down to his late game decision making. And at the end, he's like, I don't know if I want to throw a fuck. I'm running. And that was great. The running by committee system seems to be working. The yardage wasn't there, but the Buffalo backs had some physical runs when called upon. And the Bills head into their bye week, riding the highest of highs. They just have to make sure they don't take their foot off the gas pedal during the week off. And for now, 9-1 Kansas City Chiefs. You can't win them all, as they say, and all good streaks come to an end, I guess. I don't want to say losing's a good thing, but having that pressure of the unbeaten streak on your back, it's gone. They can play loose now. We'll see what happens here. The Chiefs now have a loss. They don't need to worry about unbeaten streaks. They can focus on that Lombardi trophy, focus on trying to become the first team to ever win a Super Bowl 3 times in a row. A few have done it twice, but no one's done it thrice. And members of the 1972 Miami Dolphins team, they popped it champagne as they still remain the only NFL team to go undefeated in the regular season and win the Super Bowl. Larry Zonka, there you go. How are we going to follow up that crazy game? Well, you go to Sunday night, big AFC matchup with the 4-6 Cincinnati Bengals, who were coming off that tough loss to Baltimore. You had the host 6-3 Los Angeles Chargers looking to extend their 3-game winning streak. Bengals offense started out pretty well. Joe Burrow finding Jamar Chase on a big play to get in the Chargers territory. They'd have to settle for a chip shot, though, and Evan McPherson nailed it to go up 3-0. On the Chargers' next drive, Justin Herbert, he'd show off his legs scrambling for a huge gain. Then he'd show off the huge arm, getting in the Bengals territory and finding Will Dissly, the tight end, scoring on the 29-yard touchdown pass, putting the Chargers up 7-3. Again, the Bengals offense would move down the field and even picking up a 4th down conversion on the play. Bengals avoided a Chargers defensive touchdown when T. Higgins, he went down before fumbling. Otherwise, it would have been a touchdown for the Chargers the other way. It was the right call, though. He was down. And the Chargers defense would hold up, forcing McPherson into another field goal. This one 27 yards out. And despite the Bengals having way more of the ball, they trailed 7-6 early in the second quarter. It would then take the Chargers less than 2 minutes of actual game time to respond to that score. Herbert found Quentin Johnston on a big play, followed by a big play to Dissly. Then Herbert looked end zone on a play action, finding Quentin Johnston again. A perfect throw. Herbert made it look nice, too, releasing the ball with both feet off the ground. Nice picturesque throw. Couldn't have thrown it better to Johnston, who got behind the Bengals secondary, and that 26-yard touchdown put the Chargers up 14-6. Chargers defense forced another punt. The Chargers offense continued to roll. Justin Herbert scampering for another big gain in Chiefs territory, excuse me, Bengals territory. Then the Chargers would cap the drive off by going for it on 4th and goal. And J.K. Dobbins would take the handoff, leaping over the crowd, getting into the end zone. 1-yard touchdown run. LA's up 21-6. Again, the Chargers defense doing their thing, sacking Burrow, forcing a punt, giving it back to Herbert, letting him cook with his arms and legs, setting up a Cameron Dicker field goal as first half expired. The big play before that field goal, though, there could have been intentional grounding called on Herbert, but it wasn't called. It would have been a 10-second runoff. It would have ended the first half. Instead, the Chargers get 3 points, taking a 24-6 lead in the halftime. To start the half, Chargers got the ball. They get another 53-yard field goal by Dicker, going up 27-6. Bengals needed anything to get going. They would go on a nice drive. They get faced with 4th and goal. Joe Burrow threw a fastball to Jamar Chase, who scored the 4-yard touchdown, and do a pretty nasty celebration where he pretended the ball was a baby and he wiped its ass or something. Some nasty shit. Anyway, cut the lead to 27-13. The Bengals defense stepped up after that score, sacking Justin Herbert on a big 3rd down to get the ball back to Burrow. Burrow rewarded the defense for their hard work, throwing an absolute beauty of a deep ball to T. Higgins. Just ran right by the Chargers secondary, scoring on the 42-yard touchdown. 2 touchdowns within 3 minutes of each other, had the Bengals trailing 27-13. 27-20. The Chargers offense got the ball back and we're looking like the team we saw in the first half, making big plays, picking up first downs. Then to start the 4th quarter, Justin Herbert scrambled just as he's done all game, except this time he tried to bust through some tackles, and this time he'd fumble. The Bengals recovered it in their own territory, a costly fumble for LA that had a nice drive ending with no points. Immediately after getting the ball back, Joe Burrow would find Canadian running back Chase Brown out of the backfield. Huge play. He'd make some more catches on that drive. Then Joe Burrow would buy some time before finding his main man, Jamar Chase, in the end zone. That second touchdown connection of the game, 17 yards out, tied things at 27 early in the 4th quarter. The Bengals defense forced another stop getting the ball back to Burrow, who was looking to try and get the lead in the game. He looked down the field to throw in some heavy coverage and was picked by Alohi Gilman. Except there was a flag roughing the passer. Bengals kept the ball. Huge play. Joe Burrow showed off his legs a bit, picking up a first down, getting the field goal range. From there, Evan McPherson stepped up to try a 48-yarder, and he'd miss wide. The game stayed tied at 27 halfway through the quarter. A huge miss kick for one of the better kickers in the league, certainly one of the cockier ones. The Bengals defense stepped up again after that missed field goal, getting the ball back to Burrow. And again, Burrow looked good, moving the ball down the field, setting up another field goal attempt for McPherson. This one a little longer than the other at 51 yards, but again, he'd miss it. A brutal-looking kick that had no chance. And in the 4th quarter, that was 6 points left off the board by the Bengals. And that missed kick set up the Chargers with pretty decent field goal position with 2 minutes to go in the 4th. Chargers offense would stall again and punt it, but the Bengals would get stopped and punted away as well, giving Justin Herbert a chance to start his drive off, and he'd find rookie Ladd McConkey setting up a big play, getting in the field goal range. And then on the next play, J.K. Dobbins went on a huge run, taking it outside, and he wasn't stopping for the end zone. He dove in on the 29-yard touchdown, going up 34-27 with 18 seconds to go. And even with that little bit of time, Joe Burrow was able to make a great play to ice Savis down the field, setting up a Hail Mary, but it was not answered for the Bengals. It fell incomplete. A wild Sunday night game where the Chargers were in the driving seat, almost coughed it up, but pulled off the win late. Chargers winning streak moves to 4 now as they sit 7-3 in that tough AFC West. Jim Harbaugh's having a hell of a first season with the Chargers. These are the games the Chargers have been prone to losing to in the past, so getting wins like this in prime time, this could be a turning point for the franchise going forward. And for the Bengals, man, they dropped to 4-7. This loss could be the final nail in their playoff coffin. I mean, they still have a shot, but it's not looking good. They could have really used a win, and it was another one where they had it. They were there. McPherson missing 2 4th-quarter kicks. It's wild. And you can't blame Joe Burrow, man. 28-50, 328 for 50, 356 yards, 3 touchdowns, but another L. I mean, the guy, he's got numbers that should have him in the MVP race. He's leading the league in yards, over 3,028 yards. He's leading the league in touchdowns, 27. And he's only thrown 4 picks, yet his team is 4-7. Sports can be cruel sometimes, and it's being cruel to the Bengals this season. They go into their bye week feeling a little extra shitty. How you wrap up this week? We go to Mondays, right? And for this Monday Night Football, we had the Battle of Texas, an interconference matchup in the AFC South leading Houston Texans, sitting at 6-4. The Texans were rocking a 2-game losing streak, looking to get in their winning ways. Having wide receiver Nico Collins return to the lineup was huge because we know Stephon Diggs and his torn ACL isn't coming in that door anytime soon. So it was exciting to see Nico back in the lineup. And for the 3-6 Cowboys, they were still rocking with Cooper Rush. Dak Prescott was seen coming in the stadium on crutches, so good to see him out there supporting the team. Maybe it could be a good luck charm to the Cowboys looking to end a 4-game losing streak. And before the game started, we have another week and we have another story regarding the Dallas football stadium. They tried to open the ceiling for the first time in 2 years, and after doing so, a large piece of metal fell from the opening, dropping to the ground, luckily not injuring anyone. That could have been disastrous. Staff had then found another piece had fallen and landed on the walkway above the field. That was removed, and they were like, we better shut this fucking door. So they shut the ceiling and went on with the game. The Texans had a very impressive drive. Didn't consume a lot of time, but C.J. Stroud was making some nice throws. Then he'd hand it off to Joe Mixon, and Mixon did the rest. 45 yards to the end zone. Huge rushing touchdown for Joe Mixon. The Texans led 7-0. Cooper Rush found CeeDee Lamb on a nice first down pickup. Then the Cowboys would run 3 more plays before sending out the punt team. And for the second time in 3 weeks, the sneaky Dallas Cowboys would try a fake punt from their end zone, and just like the last attempt, this one wasn't even close. Texans wide receiver John Mechie on the coverage team. He wasn't fooled by the fake, making a tackle, showing he didn't do more than the catch. That's what the Canadians do. And that fake punt by the Cowboys led to a turnover and downs, giving the Texans the ball at the 37, where they were in field goal range, but they'd elect to go for it on 4th and short, and C.J. Stroud's pass was intercepted by Malik Hooker. Stroud threw the ball way behind Collins, right into the hands of Hooker. 2 turnovers in a span of a few plays, and Dallas was pretty much back to where they had started their previous drive. And for Stroud, that was his 7th pick of the season. That's for a guy who only threw 5 last year. He's kind of regressed a bit from his last season, but I digress. The Cowboys offense were starting to make some plays. Cooper Rush was making some completions, pick up first downs. Then he was looking for Lamb, and there was some miscommunication where his pass went right to Houston's Derek Stingley Jr. Make that 3 turnovers in a span of a few minutes. Then C.J. Stroud was looking to do better after his pick, finding Nico Collins for a first down. Then he found Tank Dell to get in the red zone, where the Texans would face 4th down in Cowboy territory again, and this time they'd go for it again. Going with Joe Mixon this time, who bounced it outside to pick up the first down. And on the very next play, Mixon would get his touchdown, pumping it in, before the replay chimed in and said he was short. Too bad he'd done his celebration already, but no worries. On the very next play, he'd run it in again. This one counted. They led 14-0. Cowboys got the ball down 2 possessions. We're needing any kind of spark, and they got one. Cooper Rush found the speedy Kevontae Turpin on a slant, and he outran the defense 64 yards into the end zone. A huge break to get the Cowboys back in the game, and they trailed 14-7. ESPN would later come out with the radar gun on Turpin's touchdown run, saying he reached a max speed of 22.36 miles per hour, the fastest speed reached by a ball carrier in this season. And on the ensuing kickoff, Pierce would bobble the ball, but he was lucky enough to recover it, but it did give Houston a pretty bad field position at their 8-yard line. But it didn't seem to bother them, though. Stroud was cooking, finding his receivers. He found Mixon out of the backfield for a 37-yard play. Cowboys picked up a 15-yard penalty for cutting low on a lineman, and just like that, Houston's in the red zone. The Cowboys' defense played big, though, forcing a Kaimi Fairbairn field goal. His 33-yarder increased their lead to 17-7. Dallas's offense was trying to get rolling here. Cooper Rush would look for Lamb again. Rush would make some big plays to get into Houston territory, but on 4th down, the ball was batted down at the line, setting up a 53-yard field goal for Brandon Aubrey, and he'd nail it, cutting the score to 17-10, making it a 1-possession game again. Dallas would get the ball back again, and Cooper Rush was making some plays to get in Houston territory, setting up a short Aubrey field goal. He'd step up for the 40-yarder, except he'd doink it. You could see his planting foot slipped a bit, and he doinked the kick. We don't see Brandon Aubrey miss. That was his first miss at home in a Dallas Cowboy uniform. The Texans still led 17-10 going into halftime. Dallas started the second half with the ball, but didn't do anything with it, so the Texans got it, and C.J. Stroud found Nico Collins getting the Cowboys territory, where a Fairbairn field goal would make it 20-10. Cowboys again looking for some answers, forced into a really long field goal try. Brandon Aubrey made up for his earlier miss, nailing the 64-yarder. What a kick. Fantastic accuracy from that range. But there was a personal foul on the Houston Texans, resulting in an automatic first down. So Cowboys are like, all right, we'll take away your sweet kick, and we're going to look for a touchdown. We're greedy. They were faced with 4th and 2 from the 8, and they're like, well, we're already here. Let's go for a touchdown, except they didn't get it. Turnover on down. So they would have been better off taking that 64-yard field goal and saving some time. But this way, the Texans still led by 10. Cowboys defense forced another punt, getting it back deep in their own end. Rush would find Lamb on a big play to get out of their own goalpost shadows. And a few plays later, Rush went to throw it and had the ball knocked out from behind by Derek Barnett. But the ball fell right into his lineman's arm, Tyler Guyton, who got to live out his running back dreams, the big lineman. But he got popped and he fumbled it, where the original sacker, Barnett, would get the ball, scampering 28 yards for the touchdown. A calamity of errors for the Cowboys, where all that was missing was the Benny Hill music. That crushing play for the Cowboys put the Texans up 27-10. Both teams would punt the ball away on their possessions. Cowboys would go for it on 4th and 16 as they're down big, deep in their own territory. And just like the play prior, Cooper Rush got sacked. Turnover on downs deep in their own end, where the Texans would just try to kill the clock out. But they'd get another Joe Mixon touchdown, going up 34-10. Houston would end up easily taking the battle at Texas, demolishing the Cowboys 34-10. It was a one-possession game going into halftime, and then it got out of hand. The AFC South leading Houston Texans moved to 7-4. Joe Mixon looked amazing. Maybe the best offensive offseason addition of the season, running for 20 carries, 109 yards, 3 touchdowns. Cowboys couldn't stop him. CJ Stroud's numbers, not too impressive. 23 for 34, 257 yards. He had that interception. He had no touchdowns. But the Texans got a win, you know. That's the main thing. But I think CJ Stroud's going to have to step his game up. He's going to have to look more like last year's CJ Stroud for this team to have more success. I mean, I guess if Joe Mixon's doing as good as he is, you don't really need to throw for touchdowns. But we'll see what CJ Stroud can do going in the next week. For the Cowboys, this isn't just another bad loss in this tough season. 3-7 now. So the losing streak continues. Running the ball for 64 yards as a team. Having Cooper Rush throw for 55 times. That's not a recipe for success in this league. And like I said it earlier in a few episodes now, like the Cowboys, they face some adversity and they just fold. I don't get it. And I predicted it in this episode. I said things were going to get tough and they're going to fall apart. We had a one-possession game and it ended up 34-10. So I don't know. The locker room seems lost. Everyone's like, it's not. But Mike McCarthy, he's not coming back next season. Jerry Jones, looks like he's going to let him finish it out, but it's not going to be a fun run to end the season. How long are they going to roll with Cooper Rush? It sounds like he's going to get the start next week, but he gave up some picks. Let's see what Trey Lance can do, you know. He was the 3rd pick of the 2021 draft. The guy's barely seen a sniff of the NFL, but we'll see what the Cowboys do. It's not looking good in Dallas country, but there you have it. Week 11 recap. Bam, bam, bam. This episode should have been out yesterday, but Mother Nature decided to bless us with snow, forcing us a workout we didn't want and known as shoveling. But being November in Saskatchewan, I mean, we're pretty lucky to just get snow now. So no, didn't have tons of luck in my picks, but I did go 10-4. It's an improvement from my dreadful week the week prior. I'll take a 10-4, good buddy. But who are my losers this week? Who are my incorrect choices? I had the Commanders beating the Eagles, but they couldn't pull that off on Thursday. I had the Ravens beating the Steelers. They were right there, but they fell apart. Geno Smith decided to put San Francisco to bed, which hurt me. I had the Niners winning that. That was a close one. And I had the Bengals going to L.A. and beating the Chargers, but we know their second half comeback fell a little short. So not a bad record. I'm still looking for that immaculate week. It's coming. It's going to come. But thanks for tuning in. That's week 11. Week 12 picks are coming because the games are starting in a few days. I mean, one day. Big Thursday night game there. So we'll see how my picks go. We'll see if I do better in 10-4. We'll see, but we have a few teams with bye weeks. You'll see the the predictions coming out. Some exciting games in week 12. The NFL's been batshit crazy already. Thanks for coming along and joining the recap, guys. Ren City out.